Check it out. Are you someone who genuinely wants to buy a home right now, but so far you just haven't quite been able to pull the trigger because you're really worried that right now is not the right time to buy a home? If so, stick with me for just a few minutes because I got two things you have to know.
So, first of all, it's totally understandable that you might think that right now would be the wrong time to buy a home. 2020 so far has really been quite the shit show. Let's recap. We had our first modern global pandemic, a stock market crash, riots, murder hornets, and if you live here locally in Navarre, you might remember that we had massive wildfires this year. When the fuck does that happen? So, hey, I get it. I'm with you. But I did say that I had two things that I really believe are going to change your perspective. Check it out. All right, so two things. The first is mortgage rates. So, right now, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage would cost you 1% a year. All right? 1% a year. So, hey, I know what you're thinking. I can feel it. You're like, wait a minute, I called my bank last week. They told me mortgage rates are at 3%. That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. All right? Fair enough. If you called your bank last week, they would have told you mortgage rates right now are at 3%. All right? So 3%. So why the heck am I standing here telling you this is going to cost you 1%? All right? That's because this is known as the nominal rate. All right? This is the nominal interest rate. Right? This does not take into account inflation. Inflation being the rising cost of goods and services over time. And what that tells you is that the money you'll be using to pay back this loan will be less valuable, will be worth less year after year than the money that you borrowed. All right, so we factor out inflation, which the Federal Reserve targets a 2% a year annual rate of inflation. And historically, it's been fairly accurate. That's about what it's been year to year on average. All right. So if we factor out our rate of inflation, what we're left with is this 1%, which is known as the real interest rate. All right. This is known as the real interest rate. So let's write that. Real interest rate. So that's why I'm telling you that even at 3%, this is only going to cost you 1%. Right? Mortgage rates have never been this low. Ever. Right? It doesn't even make any sense. Like, none of us are even sure how the banks are making any money right now. But if you go to your bank and you get their prime interest rate on a 30-year fixed rate mortgage right now, this is going to cost you 1% a year. That's basically free money, right? That's the first thing I want to talk about. The second thing I want to talk about is appreciation, right? That's no big secret. Most people know that, generally speaking, over time, homes have historically appreciated in value, right? But what a lot of people don't necessarily realize is that this appreciation is a compounding annual gain, right? So to illustrate what that means exactly, I'm going to just give you a practical example. So in my market, which is Navarre, Florida, for the past 10 years, since 2010, homes here have appreciated in value on average of 4% a year. All right, so 4% a year, average annual appreciation. But if we're going to be fair, we need to factor out inflation again. All right, so minus our 2% annual rate of inflation, and what we come up with is a real rate of inflation. I'm sorry, a real rate of appreciation of 2% a year. All right, doesn't sound super awesome, but it kind of is, because like I said, this is a compounding annual gain. All right, So, right now, the average home sale price in Navarre is $300,000. So let's assume that in 2010, you bought a home for $300,000 here in Navarre. All right, so 300K. And the way that this works is the first year, this home would have appreciated 2%. So 2% on 300,000 is 6,000. So 1 year later, we could say this home would be worth 306,000. All right. So what makes compounding gains different than simple interest is that now, the next year, this 2% rate of appreciation would not be applied to 300,000. It would be applied to this 306,000. All right. So 2% of 306,000 is somewhere around 6,100 bucks. All right. So 2 years after we bought this home for 300,000, it's now worth 312.1 thousand, roughly. All right. So that's compounding annual gain. See that this builds and grows from year to year. All right. So flash forward all the way to 2020 now. All right. So 2020, and at a 2% compounding rate of appreciation, this home would now be worth $365,000. Not bad, right? Remember, this is adjusted for inflation. In actuality, if you sold this home that you bought for $300,000 in 2010 today, it would actually sell for $446,000. Even better, right? So the reason I'm talking about mortgage rates and appreciation together is I'm going to tie these together now. So you could look at this situation, right, and say that, all right, so if we're gaining 2% a year, all right, and the money that we borrowed is costing us 1% a year, all right, so factor out our 1% a year in interest cost, you can now look at this and say that, well, over that 10 years, this would have cost me no interest, all right, because my appreciation would have outweighed my interest. And in addition to that, I would have gained or earned 1% a year on the bank's money. All right, so I'm gaining or earning 1% a year on someone else's money. Right? So, right now, given these crazy, ridiculous, absurdly low interest rates, I could get you into this $300,000 house right now for $1,256 a month. All right, you could buy a $300,000 home right here in Navarre, Florida, right now for $1,250 a month. Now, I'm really gonna blow your mind. All right, so let's talk about 2010 a little more. All right, do you know what happened in 2010? All right, I'm gonna show you a picture of Navarre Beach in late April 2010 right now. All right, what was that? All right, that was approximately 1 metric ton of raw petroleum that washed up on Navarre Beach in late April 2010. All right, so how would you have felt about buying a home in Navarre in 2010 when Navarre Beach was literally covered in oil? All right, I can tell you right now, I would not have bought a home right then. But if I did, that $300,000 home would now be worth $446,000. And if you go out to Navarre Beach right now, you would never know that there was ever a drop of oil on that beach. All right. So my overall major point to all of this is that, yeah, 2020 has given us a lot of reason to worry and to be pessimistic and doubtful about the future, but there's also a lot of opportunity being presented right now. So if you've already made the decision that buying a home is the right thing for you and your family, right? Maybe it's time to just pull the trigger. All right? I'm not pretending that I see the future or that I'm some kind of prophet, but what I'm saying is there's always going to be some kind of reason to doubt, and there's always going to be some kind of reason, to not take action and to not take that next step. So I hope that you've gotten some value from this video, and if you make the decision that I am going to go ahead and buy a home now, and that home happens to be in Navarre, Florida, hey, I would love to be the guy to help you take that next step. My name is Joshua Cross. You can reach me at this phone number right here, and I'll be glad to help you. I hope that you found my video helpful.